Hi everybody, Mrs. Temple here. We're going to be working on our second day of factoring in Algebra One Quadratics. What we're going to be focusing on today is actually going to be a difference of perfect squares. So what we're going to see with all of our problems is there's going to be a difference, or for us, it's just going to mean a subtraction sign. Also, the numbers that we're going to try to factor will start out or will eventually become perfect square numbers. So if we go ahead and we look at the first example, we have 4x squared minus 9. The first thing to notice is that there is a difference sign or subtraction sign, and the numbers 4 and 9 are both perfect squares. If you remember the trick from class, we would take the square root of each number and we'd get a nice whole number back out. Anytime you answer yes to both of those questions, that there is a difference and a subtraction sign, and these are both perfect squares, you can actually go ahead and start the factoring process. When you factor a difference of perfect squares, one set of parentheses will always have a positive and the other one will always have a negative. The ordering of those does not matter. Also, what you're going to do, if you're saying that 4x squared is a perfect square number, since this is the first term that I see, the square of that, or the square root of that, will become the first term I see in each set of parentheses. So what is the square root of 4? It's 2. And what's the square root of x squared? It's x. So that's going to be my first term. Your second term, if I look at 9, what is the square root of 9? It's 3. Since it's the second term that I see in the problem, it's going to be the second term in each set of parentheses. And this actually is going to be your answer. You can go back through and you can FOIL this, first, outside, inside, last. What will end up happening is your middle terms will cancel out, which again is why there's only 2 terms to start with. Most of the time you see difference of perfect squares, they're going to be set up where the numbers are already perfect squares for you. However, if you look at the second example, you might say, well, if I take the square root of 50, it's not a perfect square number, and you would be correct. The number one thing that you want to look for when you factor is the greatest common factor, or is there a number you can divide the numbers by to make the problem a little bit simpler? So can I divide anything, or could I take a number and take 50 divided by a number and take 18 divided by that same number? And that answer would be 2. So what's going to happen is I take 50 and I divide it by our greatest common factor of 2, and I get 25x to the second, and I take 18 divided by 2, and I'm going to get 9. We'll come back to that 2 in a minute in our answer, but now we want to focus on the new part of the problem that we have. We have 25x squared minus 9. Is there a difference? Yes, there's a subtraction sign. Are 25 and 9 both perfect squares? That answer would be a yes. So once we answer yes to both of those questions, we go ahead and put down our 2 sets of parentheses. One set's a plus, the other set is going to be a minus. Then we're going to ask ourselves, well, what is the square root of 25x squared? The square root of 25 is 5. Again, it will be the first term I see in each set of parentheses, and the square root of x squared is just going to be x, or my second term, or my second part in that first term. Then I'm going to go ahead and look at 9. What is the square root of 9? It's going to be 3. So since it's the second term up here, it's going to be the second term in each set of parentheses. And although it appears that your problem is done, there's something that we did up at the very beginning when the problem started. We made that problem simpler, and to do that, we divided by a 2. You still need to include your 2 with that end final answer. So remember, anytime you take out a greatest common factor first, please make sure whatever that number is included in your answer. If this is a problem that you want to check the answer to, you would simply go ahead and FOIL first, outside, inside, last, and then whatever terms you're left with, you would multiply all of those numbers by a 2. It's one way to check your answer. Again, it's not required, but it's definitely helpful as you're working on some of the multiple choice.